And I'm going to read for you directly from the DSM what the characteristics are to be classified as a narcissist. So it's not a general description, it's directly from the diagnostic manual. Now, for someone to be classified as a narcissist, five of these 9 characteristics must be present. All right, first one. And this is, I'm going to read it so you get the exact definition from the DSM. Having a grandiose sense of self-importance. Example, they exaggerate their achievements and their talents. They expect to be recognized as superior, even if they haven't achieved that superiority. Excessively references others for self-definition and self-esteem regulation. Number 2, is preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. Number 3, believes that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high status people or institutions. Number 4, requires excessive admiration. Excessive attempts to attract and be the focus of attention of others. Number 5, has a sense of entitlement. Example, has unreasonable expectations of especially favorable treatment or automatic compliance with his or her own expectations. Number 6, is interpersonally exploitive. This means they take advantage of others to achieve his or her own ends. Relationships are largely superficial and exist to serve self-esteem regulation. They have very little interest in others' experiences and have a predominance, a need for personal gain. Number 7, lacks empathy, is unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings and needs of others, is excessively attuned to reactions of others, but only if perceived as relevant to themselves. They over or underestimate their effect on others. Number 8, is often envious of others or believes others are envious of him or her. And number 9, shows arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes. Now there's some keys to this. These 5 of these 9 behaviors and character traits must be prevalent and not solely due to the effects of an addiction, alcohol, drugs, because many people exhibit these behaviors, but they're an addict. And therefore it's the addiction that's driving the behavior, but this is separate from the addiction, all right? Many times narcissists aren't addicts, okay? Also, these personality traits are relatively stable across time and consistent across situations. In other words, they don't have moments of these things. This is them all day, every day. It would be extremely rare for them to not have these traits. Those moments are the exceptions. And 5 of these must be prevalent at all times. And what I just said is key, that these personality traits are stable in any environment and over time. And hang with me. Now I'm going to go through a subtype of codependence. You're going to see how they look and sound exactly the same. But one of the key distinctions is that stability in every situation, okay? So now I'm going to get into the aspect of codependence. As I've talked about before, if you have not watched it, you need to watch it. My video on the 2 codependent personality types. It is critical. Sadly, the way almost everybody teaches codependence is they lump it into this one general bucket, and that leaves people the impression of a whiny, spineless, weak person. That's one side of the dynamic, but there's another side of the dynamic. There are 2 subtypes. Pia Mellody is the only one I've ever heard who's ever separated them. And here's why it's important. The most successful people on this planet are that. And they look like narcissists. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that there aren't successful people that are narcissistic, but what we consider as successful people in our culture are actually severe codependents, what's called a falsely empowered codependent. And they look and sound just like a narcissist in many ways, all right? They are arrogant, they're grandiose, they're invulnerable, they're anti-dependent, they're perfectionists, walled off, and controlling. This is the CEO, the lawyer, the banker, the finance guy, the social media star, the actor, the actress. You know, this is what we're really training women to become, all of these things. Anti-dependent, I can do it by myself, I'm the boss bitch, we're training women to become falsely empowered, not truly empowered. And we see, again, this is what we promote as health. Well, no, this is severe codependence. Because they're seeking other esteem through their career, social status, and achievements. Wow, sounds a lot like a narcissist. They also minimize or deny their own feelings and see feelings as a weakness. Sounds like a narcissist, how they gaslight, right? They lack empathy or interest in other people's feelings. That's because a falsely empowered codependent is so over-invested in achieving what's called outside pursuits or other esteem. They want to achieve, and so their career and their hobbies are their main focus. And so they can't have empathy for you because it's all about them and achievement. I need your approval, just like the narcissist, to validate, oh, look, he lives in the house, he has this title, he has that car, dating that woman, oh my God, he's got it all. That's what he's after. Well, it sounds a lot like a narcissist, all right? They will label, judge, and criticize others persistently. They use sex and money and intellect and charm or gifts to manipulate, control, and have power over other people. This is codependence. This isn't narcissism, all right? They'll be indifferent, authoritative, or use rage to control people. They try to control and shape other people's thoughts, feelings, and actions. Sounds a lot like a narcissist. All right. They avoid emotional, physical, intellectual, and sexual intimacy to keep control and distance. See, I don't have to be vulnerable because their ultimate fear is vulnerability and connection and intimacy. All right. That's in part what created their false empowerment. All right. They'll use illness, addiction, and outside hobbies and interests to avoid their reality, that, because they're detached from how codependent they are. They think they've got it all together. I don't need help. I'm good. I don't have issues. No, you're the problem. A lot like a narcissist. That you do this to avoid reality and intimacy. They will deny their childhood trauma, and they'll see their childhood as perfect. Like, well, yeah, no, my parents were great. No problems at all. Much like a narcissist. All right? They rarely admit their mistakes. But now, I skipped ahead. I got too excited. So, do you see how the falsely empowered codependent looks and sounds just like a narcissist? All right? But they're not. And here I'm going to start delineating the difference between the two. All right? A falsely empowered codependent rarely admits their mistakes, but they can be aware of their mistakes. A narcissist is so detached, they literally will believe they've never made a mistake, all right? Falsely empowered rarely cooperate, negotiate, or discuss problems, but they're mostly aware that they're avoiding. They're cognizant of it. The narcissist just thinks you're crazy, all right? The falsely empowered feel superior to others, but can be aware of their shame and their inferiority. The narcissist isn't, all right? The falsely empowered won't accept or ask for help, but they can be aware that they need help. They'll be resistant to or will rarely seek help, professional help, but they can be aware that they need help. They'll rarely admit their mistakes, but are aware of their mistakes. They rarely cooperate or negotiate or discuss problems, but are mostly aware that they are avoiding doing all of those things. Now, here's something else. With the falsely empowered, they almost always have an addiction present and prioritize outside pursuits over the relationship. Now, here's the problem with addiction. Most people think addiction is just booze, alcohol, gambling, the typical things. Well, look at our society. Is it 85% now is obese? That's addiction. 85% of the population is overweight. They're in addiction, okay? But we now have condoned being overweight. It's now societally acceptable. I mean, alcohol is still pretty societally acceptable to be an alcoholic. Like, unless you're on the street, you're not an alcoholic. So we condone addictions. Working out. Oh my God, you want to talk about a massive new addiction phase and people that are avoiding intimacy and false empowerment is through working out. Animals has exploded. People are massively addicted to their animals. They will prioritize their animal over a relationship. If their animal can't be the main focus in their life and this person wants them to sacrifice, that's it. Nope. I will keep my animal. That's an addiction. Animals are great pets. But true connection is with the human being, not an animal. Our addiction to our children. That's another one. So my point is this. Many people are unaware of what constitute addictions. Work is a massive addiction. So there are all these societally acceptable things, hobbies and interests and pursuits that people have that no one ever considers are addictive, but they are. And with a falsely empowered codependent, they almost always have addiction present. But with a narcissist, that's not always true. Remember what the DSM says. These signs are prevalent without the addiction. But in the falsely empowered, almost always the addiction is present. And did you hear the common theme with the falsely empowered? They're trying to avoid intimacy, but they're aware of it. That's why they have the addiction. The narcissist is so disconnected from reality, they don't need an addiction. Their addiction is themselves. And so they don't need an outside substance. They are not present enough in themselves to observe their dysregulation. A falsely empowered codependent is. And the proof of that is their addiction. Now, they may lie and say, oh no, but their addiction proves it. All right? Now, I'm not saying every narcissist is not an addict, but that's a primary distinction, is almost all falsely empowered codependents are addicted, while very few narcissists are addicted. That's a big separator. All right? So, what are the differences between a falsely empowered codependent and a narcissist? There are three main things: awareness, addiction, and consistency. All right, I just talked about the addiction and the differences. One is predominantly addicted, the other is rarely addicted. All right, the narcissist doesn't always have an addiction present. Addiction is almost always present. Now remember, society condones most addictions. And so people, no, he's not addicted, he's a narcissist, or she's a narcissist. Well, remember, we have a very skewed reality on what addiction is. Okay, so most people are labeling somebody who's falsely empowered, a falsely empowered codependent, as a narcissist, yet they've got all these addictions present. That in itself shows an awareness and an attachment to reality. And that was the first point, awareness. Did you hear the falsely empowered almost always is aware? Now, they may not share that awareness with you, but they're aware of their dysfunction. They just don't want to feel it. They don't want to deal with it. And so they're avoiding it. The narcissist, completely oblivious to it. Like, you might as well be speaking a different language. It just doesn't even register. They are so detached from reality and from themselves, they don't notice the pain. They don't notice any of it. That is a key distinction. Now, remember how I said earlier, I said this is a key point. These personality traits are relatively stable across time and consistent across situations. Many of us have narcissistic moments or things that look narcissistic, but they're actually falsely empowered codependents. And so here's the picture I want you to have in mind. A narcissist is like the desert. A falsely empowered codependent is like Denver, Colorado. Think of the desert. It is almost always hot. It is always filled with sand. The landscape is almost always the same. Not much change to the clouds or the sky. It is rare that there's rain. It is rare that there's clouds. It is rare that there's any change at all. That's a narcissist. Their behavior is consistent. Every once in a while, there might be a dip. The falsely empowered codependent may have seasons like Denver. Winter in Denver is 7, 8 months long. When I lived there, it's pretty long, or it's probably more 6 months. That's a long period of time. That might look like narcissism. But then spring pops, and my God, spring in Denver is fantastic. But it still has the most violent storms in Denver happen in the spring. Looks a lot like narcissism. The heaviest snowfall is in the spring, not in the winter. Oh my God, he's a narcissist. No. They're just having a highly reactive, falsely codependent experience. After a long period of a consistent, now it's just spiked. Now they're dumping more snow. But then that gives way to summer, a bit of a calm. It's pretty, it's relaxing, the breezes come through. Now it's just afternoon thunderstorms. But you get July, and July, it's basically sunny for a full month, no rain, nothing. It's this, do you see what I'm getting at? A falsely empowered codependent goes through seasons. It is not the desert. All right, they have moments, and that's what's confusing everybody. Is people are they're watching these videos and they're hearing the 15 signs of a narcissist and go, well, yeah, they don't have empathy. And that comment and oh my God, they're a narcissist. No, they're just falsely empowered codependents. So now, which one am I? Because I get labeled a narcissist a lot. Usually when people don't like what I say. But I'm a severely codependent person. I bounce between falsely empowered. Now you can see that when I get grandiose and I go, only my way is the best way and everyone else is dumb and everyone else is teaching you wrong. I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best. And that looks like narcissism. No, what that is severe false empowerment that's hiding severe shame and tremendously low self-esteem. And so when you see me look narcissistic, or some of my replies can be biting and sharp, that look narcissistic. What that is my low self-esteem and my shame core has triggered. And so I'm acting out of fear and insecurity, and I've lost complete containment of myself, and I'm lashing out. And so it can look narcissistic, but it's not. Now, what many of you don't see, or sometimes in certain videos, I'm not afraid to show it, but this dynamic doesn't create an opportunity for many of you to see is when I'm disempowered. Now, this is when I'm depressed and sad and quiet and morose and stuff like that. I generally don't come on shooting a video like that, but that's still there. The point is this, do you hear? I have these wild swings of emotions and states. I'm a lot like Denver. I'm a bit all over the place, all right? At times, it can look very harsh and unempathetic and unkind and preoccupied with myself and believe that I'm special and require excessive admiration and is interpersonally exploitive and lacks empathy and is often envious. All of those traits look a lot like narcissism. But they're just severe codependents. And as I said, what usually happens to me in relationship is I start off as the falsely empowered. It's really a wall to protect myself. And once I get a sense of comfort, I then usually become the disempowered. This is where I get really vulnerable, but I get too vulnerable. Now I tend to expect them to take care of me. And so I'm always working on moderation, recognizing, oops, false empowerment, oops, disempowered. Where's maturity and moderation? It's in here. And so that's part of why, again, I share my story. I'm holding myself accountable for my imperfections. Well, a narcissist can't do that. They're not aware of it. All right? It's a completely different dynamic. All right? So again, the three things you're looking for when you want to diagnose the difference between a narcissist and a falsely empowered codependent are awareness, addiction, and consistency. Okay? Those are the three main factors that you're looking for. I urge you, please, educate yourself on codependence through Pia Mellody. This is where, and see, a narcissist wouldn't do this. This is where I go, gosh, how do I say this? That's not falsely empowered. That's not demeaning. That doesn't sound narcissistic and like I'm shaming other people and I'm better and all of that. Did you see how I paused? Right there is the internal battle I'm having of the falsely empowered wanting to state something, the disempowered feeling tremendous shame and going, where's the middle? Where's moderation? How can I express myself where I don't transfer my codependence, my shame, my low self-esteem onto you? How can I find a way to say this moderately and maturely in between my dysfunctions? Okay? So I'll try the best I can for where I am right now in my recovery journey. And the best way I can say it in this moment is, it's been my experience that most of the information on codependence is incorrect. They've lumped it all together. They haven't made it specific enough for you to really diagnose and understand the dynamics. And only one person has done that the best, and that's Pia Mellody. And when you learn her stuff, you have a completely new understanding of codependence. And the beauty of it is you can then discern the difference between narcissism and codependence.